Hi everybody, this is Why I Believe. Time travel is a staple of science fiction films, but that doesn't indicate it always makes tons of sense. As far as anyone knows, time travel isn't technically possible, which means all the way it's depicted in the films are dreamed up by talented writers, not physicists. The time travel scenarios conceived by screenwriters often lead to plot holes and strange situational paradoxes, which may make for a fun and entertaining movie, but do not much in a way of realism. Some of the plot holes involve what is called the Predestination paradox, when a time traveler becomes a player in the past event, and they might even instigate something that leads to the need of the future to go back in time. In other cases, alternative timelines will be created to avoid these paradoxes. Now, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel for more topics on why I believe Christianity is the best worldview to adopt to understand the world. Turn on that notification bell and let's dig in. In the movie Looper, it has this predestination paradox, as the main character doesn't close out his loop, which rewrites the whole movie, preventing any of the action from happening in the first place. In the Terminator series, you can only travel through time if you are comprised of organic materials. That has been broken several times in the movie. The movie also is a sort of reverse grandfather / predestination paradox, in that John Connor couldn't have existed to send Kyle Reese back in time unless he had done so before his conception, which doesn't make sense. In Terminator Genesis, it rewrites everything back to before the first movie even took place in the past, which effectively wipes out everything that happens in the sequels. In X-Men Days of the Future Past, Wolverine was sent back to the past by Kitty Pryde. By doing so, they can alter their past in order to erase their present. However, without their present to help their past, how can they change their past behaviors? The movie Butterfly Effect and About Time, the time traveler's mind can be transferred to an earlier period of their lives to make changes as they see fit. However, this has the predestination paradox written all over the film. Again, if you change your past, your present will no longer be present, unless you live in a parallel timeline. The famous Back to the Future trilogy fully exploits this parallel timeline method. However, if Doc Brown's theory is actually true, all their adventures will be futile in changing their present reality, as they are creating an alternative timeline, not to mention the fact that they just suddenly disappear from their reality. In the movie Predestination, the main character is struck in a loop that self-fulfills itself. Although this may seem to avoid the predestination paradox, as the protagonist is unable to break out of this cycle, but it breaks our understanding of the universe that the rules of cause and effect didn't apply to the title character. More recently, Avengers Endgame also danced around the idea of alternative timeline. A few loopholes in that how can two Captain Americas stay in the timeline without causing any ripple effects? In addition, by not retrieving the Tesseract, they allowed Loki to escape and effectively created an alternative timeline. As the Smart Hall commented, all timelines exist simultaneously, and by changing the past does not change the future. Hence, their machine is more than just a time travel machine, but really a time realm traveling device. Finally, the most recent blockbuster, Tenet, packaged the idea of time travel in a concept called reverse time or anti-time. The fact is that the movie utilizes the reverse effect of time, while the actual timeline still flows. From a traditional sense, this is not time travel. Also, the movie implies that there is an invisible force that prevents you from doing anything in the past that will change your trajectory of the future. This is like Looper or Predestination, where the cause and effect law are broken. All in all, the movies about time travel all imply that the future and the past are a reality that a person can travel to. However, does this concept of time really agree with the world we live in? How does that work knowing that there's a God that transcends time? To answer all these questions, we have to first understand the most fundamental question: what is time? St. Augustine said, "When no one asks me what time is, then of course I know what it is. But as soon as somebody asks me for a definition, then I don't know what time is." As a working definition, let's say we define time by saying there is a duration involving an earlier and later. Time is a kind of dimension of reality whose elements are ordered by the relations earlier than and later than. Now, philosophers generally treat time in two views. First, the A theory, and second, you guessed it, the B theory. The A theory of time, or the dynamic theory of time, is a tense theory of time, in that events are ordered as past, present, and future. The only thing that really exists is the present moment. The future is just potential. It doesn't really exist yet. It hasn't come into being. The past no longer exists. It did once exist, but it now has passed away. In this view, temporal becoming is a real and objective feature of the world. If you believe in the existence of God on the A theory of time, then God cannot be equally present in the past and future, because those things don't exist. They are simply unreal. In the B theory of time, or the static theory, it is a tenseless theory of time. The difference between past, present, and future is just a subjective illusion of human consciousness. In fact, all events in time, whether past, present, or future, are equally real. There is no objective differences between the past, the present, and the future. It is actually just a matter of your subjective viewpoint. In reality, everything is equally real, whether past, present, or future, and temporal becoming is just an illusion of human consciousness. So we are victims in the sense of our massive illusion. Lastly, our tense sentences express tenseless truth. For example, today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday. That's true. But when tomorrow comes, today is Sunday, and tomorrow is Sunday, becomes false. By this definition, the only people who take time travel seriously as a real possibility are the B theorists. Looking at the two theories, everybody knows that the A theory is a common sense view of time. The average person thinks that there is a difference between past, present, and future, and things do come into existence and do go out of existence. There's nothing that could be more intimate to us than the experience of temporal becoming. Hence, the B theory is theologically objectionable on a number of grounds. First, it emasculates the Christian doctrine of creation. On the B theory of time, God never brings the universe into existence. Since temporal becoming is illusory, rather God just exists timelessly, and the universe exists co-eternally with God. Second, the problem of all evil and the sin in the world is never really done away with. The stain of evil is still permanently there. Now, looking at the Kalam's cosmological argument, which we will cover in a separate video, we can deduce that there is an uncaused first cause, namely God, and He is timeless. From scripture we know that He is eternal, He exists without beginning nor end, and God is permanent. And throughout the Bible, a literal reading of the text gives an overriding impression that God is eternal in the sense of existing in all times, not in the sense of being timeless. Since the most possible view of nature of time is that time involves an objective distinction between past, present, and future, and that temporal becoming is a real, mind-independent feature of the world, we can say that God is timeless without creation, and temporal since creation. Because of this nature of God, the B theory of time simply cannot be true, and this is why I believe why time travel, depicted by those in the movies, do not make sense.